AP Stats. We are on another day of sampling proportion, so we're still talking about those normal curves, but I wanted to show you guys how to calculate probabilities with your calculator. And we are going to go through some of the examples that we've already done in class. We're just going to take those a step further. So I actually want you guys to go find in your notes the probability model that we created with the ghost. So we're going to look at that ghost example from yesterday, and you guys already told me what the mean and the standard deviation was. You told me the mean was 0.45. That was the probability of success of someone believing in ghosts. And you guys also told me the standard deviation was 0.018. And so on this one, we just continue to add to our chart. So one standard deviation goes up to 0.468, then we get 0.486, and then we get 0.504, and then on the other end it was 0.432 and 0.414 and then 0.396. And we talked yesterday about the 68, the 95, and the 99.7. But not all the time we're going to have these perfect probabilities. So if we wanted to do something like this, what is the probability that you are going to have more than 40% of people believe in ghosts? So what this means is that on this, we want to know what is the probability that more than 40% of people believe in ghosts. So it doesn't have to be exactly 40%. We're talking about 40 and above. So if you are looking at that chart, I'm just doing just a little basic example. I'm actually going to cheat here a little bit. But based on what I'm seeing up here, 40% would be right here in between these two, a little bit closer to this one. So 40% and more, so we're talking about the right side of this. So all of this is what we're trying to find the probability of. This little area right here is what we don't want the probability of. Both sides have to equal 1, but we are talking about this one above. So we should expect this to be a lot. Now, since this has a greater than or equal to, you have to ask yourself, is this a PDF or a CDF? And on this one, since it's an inequality, it is a CDF. It's a cumulative distribution. But this time, since it's a bell curve, it is a normal CDF. So we're actually going to get that calculator out, and we are going to find a normal distribution. So just like we've been doing distribution menu, now the normal distributions are right there. We're doing normal CDF. It's the second option. It's going to ask you some questions. The lower bound, now on this one, the lowest number we want is a 0.4. Now the upper one goes all the way across. Now the biggest number is 0.5. Technically this could go all the way to 1 because probabilities go from 0 to 1. So the highest probability on this is 1. The lowest probability over here is 0. So the right-hand side goes all the way up to 1. Your mean is a 0.45 and your standard deviation is a 0.018. Those are just numbers that we had earlier. And that gives us a probability when x is greater than or equal to 0.4 of 0.9973. You can do 3 or 4 decimals. I'm not going to be picky there. So that was an option. Now sometimes it'll say, what's the probability that it's between 44.44 and 0.49. So it might give you a range to look at. So the way we would write a probability statement is, since it's in between two numbers, we're going to say that x is in between 0.44 and 0.49. Hey girls, I'm recording. Can you just... Thank you. All right, so 0.44 to 0.49. So what this is telling us on the curve, and again, I'm just cheating from the last example, 0.44 would be somewhere about here. And then 0.46, 0.48, 0.50. And 0.49 would be somewhere about here. So this would be 0.44, this would be 0.49. So we're wanting to know this area in between these two. It's a pretty big chunk, but we're only looking at this area. We don't want the whole thing. So it's we're finding that probability, and since it's not a symmetric range around the mean, we aren't able to do like that 68, 95, 99.5. But it's a range. We have inequality, so this is still a CDF. So we're going to do a normal CDF on the calculator, but we're going to ask ourselves a couple questions. So we're going to go to our distribution menu, do normal CDF. Now this time, the lowest number that we want is 0.44. We want nothing below that. Now this time, we actually want it to stop at 0.49. So that's our upper. Our mean and our standard deviation would be the same, so we would just paste that in. And so we got a lower, upper, mean, and standard deviation, and that gives us 0.6976. And there we have it. So we're doing normal CDFs today. Sometimes they will give you an upper and a lower bound. So like on this last one, they gave us the lower bound and we wanted to go up. So the upper bound is 1 if it's not given. Now if it's going from a number down, the lower bound is 0. So whenever you type in your normal CDF on the calculator, you're going to do a lower bound first, an upper bound second, then you're going to do your mean and your standard deviation. And then just remember, if it's not given, the lowest lower bound can be 0 and the upper bound would be 1, because on this curve, the farthest lowest a probability can be a 0, the best a probability can be is 1. So those are your upper and lower bounds if they're not given. So if you have any questions about the calculator or the questions on your Khan Academy, I am expecting to see 3 scores from all of you for the Khan Academy, because we are moving on Thursday and moving on to new stuff, and I don't want you guys to get super overwhelmed. So I definitely want to see 3 scores from all of you. If you need me, come see me until 3 at the school, or you can send me an email. We can do a Google Meet, whatever you need to do. I will see you guys on Thursday.